What I'll advise is, if you're looking for a life partner, don't always go for the obvious, and ask yourself truly, what are you looking for?
Because of her experience in Germany, she had a really negative experience of what it is to live around a white community.
No matter who you marry, there is no way you wouldn't have some interaction with their family.
My wife, and I took her home to Nigeria, my dad said to me, "You brought my mom back to me."
Yes, I did go to God in prayer about it after a while, because I used to complain to my sister. She said to me, "Have you prayed about it?" So I started praying about it instead.
So, to put it into context, whether you're Christian or not, do not fall out over food with your partner. It's just not right.
You can find out some of these things, but not all of it until you start living together.
I said, it's not about the color, it's about the person inside.
You are perhaps the only human being I have ever met in my entire life who thinks the way you think.
If you build God's house, God will build your house.
Hi everyone, my name is Bola Amore. Welcome to Wisdom for Exploit. Today I have with me two wonderful guests. Before my guests introduce themselves, do not forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on new videos and podcasts. Thank you. So over to you, my wonderful guests. Can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Deborah Georgiae. I'm married, 27 years, mother of 3, and a certified project manager.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm fortunate, father to 3 boys. Married, well, for a very long time. Work with a manufacturing company. And happy to be here too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining me this wonderful evening.
All right.
Let's see. Yeah. So I know the last time we met, we were talking about healthy relationship. So we're going to continue with our part 2. And the part 2 is still healthy relationship, but choosing a life partner. Choosing a life partner. So when choosing a life partner, what should young adults and those remarrying consider? So when I say young adult, people in their millennium or Gen Z, in their 20s, or people remarrying for different reasons, maybe they divorce, or maybe something happened, they're widow or widower, and now they want to remarry. So what should they consider before choosing a life partner?
Those people are in 2 different categories to begin with.
Yeah.
Someone remarrying would have at least tried it first, would have been with somebody, so they know what it was like to be married to that person. But the person who's getting married for the first time, there's a saying in Yoruba language that if you haven't tasted the house of 2 or 3 husbands, how do you know what it's like? They don't know anything. They're fresh and green. And for each person, when you get married, you have your reasons for marrying. When I was in primary school, there's a boy I liked, that I had a crush on. To be honest, looking back now, I can honestly say it was because of his physique. He had square shoulders, broad chest. He was just very good looking and tall. And as a kid, you don't know those things at that time. That's why you were attracted to that person. But when I got to secondary school, the boy that I dated for 3 years was nothing like him. But he had a commanding presence. He was very clever. He was very clever. He had respect for his friends. I respected him. He was a very quiet person, very unassuming, but he just had a presence about him. He was a very respectable person. But I could intellectually connect with him. And but I fell in love with him, but it took only one instant for something to happen, and then it was just like scales fell off my eyes and the love disappeared.
Wow.
So when I was considering a life partner, I told myself, love's got nothing to do with it. I wasn't going to marry someone who I was in love with, because if I could easily fall out of love like that, it was actually instantaneous for me. And I thought, if I can fall out of love like that, why am I marrying someone for love? If it can't last, there's no point. So I started to look at other things that mattered to me. And for anyone who's going into considering marriage or even remarriage, it's what matters to you. If you're in a marriage and it broke down for certain reasons. You have to tell yourself, what part did I play in that? Because it's not always about the other person. Find out what happened to you as well. For me, it was who can make me laugh. If you can make me laugh, definitely we can get along. And one of the things, someone who would care about me. You can go out with someone who you say, we have a headache or you're sick, you're feeling tummy ache. You said, oh, okay, stay home then. And they won't call you back or find out how you were feeling or if you're feeling better or anything. You don't want that kind of person in your life because they don't really care about you. And I also wanted someone who loved me more than I loved them. So at least if I fall out of love, they can still remain. That was my thinking then. Oh, Lord. And then obviously it has to be an intellectual person. I can't stand dumb people. Sorry, I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way, but people who are not intelligent, I cannot stand being around someone who's not intelligent, whom I cannot carry on a conversation with, who I cannot talk about world affairs or politics or anything like that with. It would not work for me. So these were the things that were important to me. I basically, now looking back on it, I really just wanted a friend, someone who would be a friend, because these are qualities that you share with your own friend. If you have a girlfriend that you do things with, that you're close with, these are the kind of qualities you share with that person. You can go shopping together. You can talk about things together. You can share secrets with one another. These were the kind of person I was looking for without realizing at the time. And that was whom I married. And 27 years on, we've had our disagreements. I almost even divorced him at one time. The lawyer had to tell me, sorry, you have no case. Go home. It was that silly. It was that silly that, what I was fighting over. But it just shows that, thank God, I married the right person for me. And what I'll advise is, if you're looking for a life partner, don't always go for the obvious and ask yourself truly, what are you looking for? What is it that you want? What is it that will last you the long haul? What is looks that you're looking for? It could fade. They could get fat. They get too slim. Something can happen. They have an accident. They could have a facial paralysis, whatever. Something can happen and they don't look the same anymore. Or is it money that you're after? Or someone who's wealthy today? How sure are you that they'll be wealthy in 10 years' time, 20 years' time? Always think about what it is that you are looking for. Also, one more thing. My husband also had potential. He was a very hard worker. He was the kind of person that whenever he does anything, he throws himself into it. And he absolutely does his very best at everything that he puts his hands to. That was something else I also wanted. Someone who was also serious on that level. So that was how I chose my life partner. So think about what it is that it's important to you, and then go for it. You may not find everything. That's always true. You will not find 100% of all these qualities in one man, but find the most important ones. Rate it. I literally I got a piece of paper, wrote the names of the boys that were going after me at that time, and all these qualities, and I rated them. The ones that had the best of all. That was how I literally did my judgment. But it's up to each and every person to find out what's important to them and what they feel they can live with for a long period of time before they go into a relationship, and also what they don't want as well.
That's good. That's very good. Fortunate, do you want to say something before I say what I want to say concerning that?
Yeah, I think like Deb said, she's made a great valid point. Know what you want. A lot of the times, knowing what you want means you know who you are yourself. You know yourself to say, oh, this is me. This is what I like. And this is what I don't like. Previous engagement, when we had the chat the last time, we talked about knowing thyself as part of the process. That information of who you are is really important to be the bedrock and the foundation to going forward into finding out who somebody else is. Because if you don't know who you are, you're just going to stumble and bumbling along, just going from A, B to C, tasting everything to see which one's right for you because you don't know who you are. But once we identify that we're child of God, God has set a purpose for your life, you're yet to discover it, you're going to go on a journey, and then you're going to say, right, okay, that's great. I still have a longing to be with somebody. Now, who can I go on that journey with? Who's going to go on that journey with me? Can I, build the same platform with that person? What they look like might not matter to you, but if you put it in prayer and say, Lord, this is what I need. You always give your own to your own. Help me out and get me to where I need to be. Say your prayers as you should, because the person would surely come, but you might not know who they are. I'll give you an example. My uncle, his name is Paul Olabisi. You might know him. He's a single guy, and he was a player for the most part of his teenage to 20th to 30th. He was an absolute player. And he came over to England. He was still a player. But when you find Christ, all that changed. When I said all that changed, the man changed. You see, there's a change of character, a change of knowing who he was. He was seeking after the mind of God or mind of Christ, which then helped him. Finding his wife was a bit weird. He took on the job of sweeping the church. This is a big guy. He's no small man. And he goes, yeah, I'm going to sweep the church. I just want to do that. He wasn't looking for a wife, but he's been praying about it. He found his wife also sweeping the church.
Yeah.
They both took on the task of wanting to keep the church clean. Two people were asked, can anybody do it? He volunteered. Somebody else volunteered, not realizing they will also be meeting as they're sweeping. Hey, God works in beautiful ways. So if you have something in common, like Debbie said just then, something that you can go both gravitate towards and go on this path, we know where we are. You could fall in and out of love very, very easily. Like she said, it's true. But you need to have something else that draws you back in, that centers you both, that keeps you both grounded. Christ should be the center, but apart from Christ being Christian, there need to be other common grounds, other common factors that hold you together. If it's traveling, if it's going out to help people, if it's giving, if it's charity work, if it's something that you can both do. Imagine if you weren't Christian, but you were living, cohabiting together. There must be something else apart from the normal attributes of love that binds you together. There must be something else. It's that you like going out, eating, going to parties, or doing something, or dancing. No, you need to have something that gels together outside of the faculty of the love and all that, sentimental values. There needs to be more. There needs to be more than that. But as for those who are remarrying, I mean, you look at the life of Ruth in a biblical sense. She's gone from one family, lost her husband. Yeah, there's all sorts going on, but she remained faithful.
Yeah.
Difficult because you come with other experiences, you come with other baggage, and then you're going to have to find somebody else to come in and then be a unit again. I've seen it's worked. A friend of mine, he married a twin who passed away. His wife passed away to cancer, and then he has to marry again from one of a circle of friends. So it can happen. God can, touch hearts. Hearts can be mended, and people can find again the courage to love again. You just have to want it. But you again, for what reason, for what purpose, what's your why? You might not need it, and you don't necessarily have to go into it. But if you feel like you still have a passion to be with people, yes, happy days. Just give it to the Father and say, Father, I'd like to be with somebody again. Help me, guide me. The steps of the righteous man has been ordered by God. If you're not a believing person in terms of from the Christian perspective, you've got to ask yourself, what are the benefits of me going back into a relationship if I was lost my wife or some, you've got to see it as, I want to be loved again. Maybe that's the reason. Or again, as the first instance, such as coming together with somebody, you need to know who you are, what you're about, what you're going to bring to the table, should you get back into a relationship with somebody else, because it's essential to know that you are solid within yourself. You need somebody else to come along and make you solid. You yourself need to be rounded and grounded. And on those bases, you can build and help somebody else. Like Deborah said just then, I like somebody to make sure that I'm okay if I'm not feeling well, Whoever's going to do that must be grounded in themselves, because you can't give what you don't have. If you don't have the ability to care, whether you met them yesterday or 10 years ago, you probably go, that's your problem, bye-bye. But you want to make sure you have the ability, that person has the ability to care. Just, you need to be able to care so that somebody else can also care for you, and vice versa. Yeah. So we take our steps logically, also spiritually, and you have to be open-hearted, be ready to sort of go out there and not be scared. Look, my son, I was watching a movie, and I was watching George Foreman on Netflix. Sorry to bring that in. And it showed, he's a shy guy, but he went past a very beautiful young lady, and he's literally backtracked and go, whoa, who was that? Hello, who are you? And he had to literally get in there and say something. He was shy. And I said to my son, who was 13, I'm like, see that? You got to learn to be brave. I knew my son's weakness. He's not an outgoing kind of guy. But I'm saying to him, it's still possible, against all odds, to be able to step forward and be bold. Whether they say no or yes, it doesn't really matter. I'm not trying to start him on dating scene to start dating, but I'm just saying that you need to learn to be bold sometimes, to say, right, this is what I like. Okay, God help me through this process. I'm scared, but give me the bravery to step forward. So for those who are trying to get into a relationship, for those who have come out or going back in, find out who you are before you go back into something else, or before you join somebody else. Simple as that.
Well done. Well done. Thank you very much. That's really profound. That's really, really profound. And I'm just going to say a little bit concerning people remarrying. It's not every majority of people that really want to remarry, because I've come across people that have been, maybe women especially, that maybe they lost their spouse 25 years, some 21 years. They said they can't just be bothered. You understand? Even people that less than that, because they're thinking that who is going to be like their husband? You understand? So anyway, you guys have nailed it on the head, which is very good. Thank you very much for that. So I don't want us to go to keep going around that one. So you need to know, you need to especially people remarrying, you really need to prepare and think that, is this really what I want for myself? Then for the younger one as well, it's not about love. So when you are praying with one eyes, open another eyes, because as Deborah said, people go into marriage for love, and 2 weeks after the wedding, they say, sorry, I don't like him anymore, or I don't like her anymore. So what were they thinking before they went to to tie the knot? So yeah, thank you very much. So the second question is, what is the impact of multiculturalism on marital and relationship dynamics?
I leave that to Brad Fortunate, because I married a Nigerian man. So although I did date outside of my culture, but not for very long, I leave Brad Fortunate to see what he has to say first.
Okay.
Well, if you take the Nigerian perspective, there are multifaceted approach to looking at this. Let's look at it from a European eyes, looking into, let's say, the African nations. Let's take Nigeria, for example. In Nigeria, if you were Igbo, you might struggle to marry an Hausa.
Yeah.
Oh, hello. What's going on here? From the European point of view, they don't see you as Igbo, but they don't see you as Hausa. They just see you as Nigerian.
Yeah.
Vice versa, if you were Yoruba marrying an Igbo, over there might be some few raised eyebrows here and there, but from the rest of the world, they don't see you as Yoruba. They don't see you as Igbo. They just see you as a black couple. So there are multifaceted problems that arises with that, and it shouldn't be a problem. It should be a sense of strength. because it builds bridges when you have two different multicultural just come together. You know what? Recently, I think was brilliant with the likes of the younger generations. Let's say in the past 30 years, those bridges have been better done. You know, they've been put together better. My mom's brother married somebody from Igbo, so we got family from Igbo.
Wow.
My uncle married somebody from Ghana, so you got Ghanaian in our family. So my cousin married somebody from Hausa, so you got an Hausa in our family. All of a sudden, what used to be something that's so distant stories, literally now next door. So all the myth people talk about each other, it's now dispensed. Nobody go, oh, they don't cook this way. Oh, they don't cook that way. Oh, they're very traditional. They do this witchcraft. They do that backcraft. They're like, what craft? I don't care what craft. It doesn't matter anymore. All of a sudden, things, we're removing the veil, we're tearing down all of those taboos and all those possibility of saying, oh, they do that, they do that. Forget that. Let's see the person first. Who is the person you're getting into? You're not marrying the whole tribe. You're marrying the one person. Like I said, knowing yourself means you need to know who that person is. So let's leave Nigeria now. Now, when we look abroad, you probably see every white folks to be all to kind of look all alike. Don't say they are alike, but from your point of view, from African point of view, you're all alike. You see a couple, they're both white. One is Scottish, one is English. From their point of view, they're enemies. From your point of view, they're like, hey, you look happily married. But traditionally, that is not true. The English and the Scots have been at each other's throats even to this very day. I have a Scottish boss, so I can tell you for a fact.
Oh, Lord.
So the cultural differences, regardless of the skin color, still remains. But in a relationship, these things can be an absolute blessing if you can know how to harness the gift both parties are bringing, and you're changing cultural, exchange, as they call it. It's a blessing. Now, take me, for example. I've married from somebody who's not a black person, but a white person, Caucasian. My mom said to me, she sent a message through my uncle saying, tell my son, do not marry a white person. That was her message to me back in, what was it, 1999 or 1998, back then. Why? Because of her experience in Germany. She had a really negative experience of what it is to live around a white community in some cases. And she didn't trust them, saying the divorce rate is so high. And it's true. She had very good reasons not to trust certain people. But again, know yourself, know who you want to be with, and know them in and out, and pray about it. One of the key things I didn't set out to marry a white person. No, I did not. Great. I said, God, this is what I would like to see happen. This is the character I want. This is the behavior I want. This is the trait I want from this person. All very similar to my grandma, but I didn't realize it at the time. When I met my wife and I took her home to Nigeria, my dad said to me, you brought my mom back to me. Wow. I didn't see it. Well, let's be honest, her features were very much like my grandma, because my grandma's got sort of like Arabian in her, like is sort of like, like almost like a Jewish Arabian kind of person. If you saw her, Rachel, and I kind of missed it, but I got my wife because of her nature of who she was, her character, because of her looks. Whereas somebody said to me, why did you marry somebody who's white? This is a family member. I'm like, well, she's a person like I am, we got together. Why can't you never marry somebody who's black? I'm like, well, just because we're black doesn't mean the marriage is going to be perfect. I'm like,
exactly.
Look at my auntie. My auntie married somebody who came from the same town, with the same surname, great wedding, great family, yet they were divorced very quickly, and the family literally went to pieces. I'm like, does it make any difference now? I mean, just because she's white doesn't mean we won't survive. No, the people that came from the same tribe, the same language, the same food, the same everything, their marriage fell apart spectacularly. I
Mm.
said, it's not about the color, it's about the person inside. Because
Inside.
the shell, we're wearing a shell. The real you looks scary. You see,
Mm-hmm.
the real you is not somebody you can identify with very easily.
Mm.
You're an energy that you can't put your thumb on. The
Mm.
real. So we're just wearing a shell. So the marriage with the multicultural, we should embrace it and appreciate it. There's a comedian called Michael Yo in America. He, Dad's Black American. His mom is from South Korean.
Mm.
He calls his children pandas. They're
Wow.
black or white. CC and Mimi or something like that. Because he goes, look, my children are American, they're black, they're white, they're Asian, they're American. It doesn't matter how you look at them, because they're American. We're human.
Mm.
Bottom line, we're God's creature, God's children.
Mm.
So I think for those who might be scared with mixed marriages
Yeah.
or mixed cultural marriages, which sounds absolutely stupid that people back at home in Nigeria will always go, oh my God, you're marrying somebody from Igbo land. They don't know how to cook pounded yam properly, or they don't know how to make stew. Come on, those things are petty, silly little things. Don't even go there.
Mm.
We've gone past that now a
Mm.
long time ago. So it's now time to embrace each other really tightly and lift each other up in the differences that we have, because that's exactly what the body of Christ really need to
Mm.
solve a lot of the problems. My kids understand what it was, the way black people lived in the old days. We talk about it, we share them. We read the impact of white colonialism in Nigeria and Africa. We talk about it, we share them. This knowledge are passed on. They understand it. They're from both worlds and they can address the information accordingly. So it's a blessing,
Mm.
that you should look for within the multicultural or marital relationship. And it's wonderful dynamics. There's a blessing there.
Mm.
But unfortunately, because of bad experiences from other people, they will look at the negative first before they can start to look at the blessing.
Mm.
Unfortunately, if you do that, you miss the biggest blessing of your life.
Mm.
So at this point in our lives, at the stage where we are, wherever God sends into your life, if you're praying and you're communicating with your Father, they could be Chinese, green, blue, yellow, purple, whatever. That person's for you. Embrace them and everything that they've got. I've got a friend, his name is Akin. He's married somebody from east of Africa. And the way they cook is different from the way we cook in the west of Africa. I'm not going to say which country. In their culture, when it comes to basic things like food, it's a taboo to mix meat with green, like spinach and okra. They don't do that. They don't mix it. And he's a Yoruba guy and he wants to see his meat, his okra and spinach all banged together and it's having a pounded yam. Whereas in our culture, it's a no. And they both have to come to an understanding to go, okay, that's what you guys don't do. This is what we do. Let's find a common ground. And they are living a happy life to this very day. And they've been married for 20 years. So you can make anything work. Like Deborah said earlier, it's not so much about, oh, do I love you? Do I not love you? It's about what we have in common. Those little wonderful little things that we can go, yeah, I like that. Oh, that's interesting. We don't do that, but I'd like to know more. I've got a Japanese friend. He's from Japan. And he likes Nigerian food. In short, he's the boss of a Formula One car company for the racing team Haas. And he came to my house for after Christmas. And he wants to eat stew and the goosey soup. That's his thing, Ayo loves egusi. He loves red pepper stew, and it's Japanese, and he loves Nigerian food. So it's not so much about, oh, don't eat our stuff. Oh, I won't touch your stuff because you're different. No, I'm interested to know who you are and what you to do. To know the things you love. I'd like to know more about it. a multicultural relationship is an opportunity to build bridges. It really is. And I long may it continue that people find love, not looking at the skin tone, not looking at the skin color, just looking at the heart. You know, like Martin Luther King said, they shall be judged because of the character and the content of their heart. You know, that's it, not because of the color of their skin. Yeah.
Well done.
That is a great quote. Yeah. Actually, I have it on my wall. Yeah, you're right. You're very, very right. I chose not to speak first because I know you're married to a Caucasian person. I married a Nigerian guy, not just Nigeria, he's Yoruba as well. And like I said last recording, that he's someone that we've known. I grew up with him. He was someone who was known as my mom's second son. So to be honest, there really shouldn't have been a lot of differences between us because we more or less grew up together, and I felt I knew him. But it's one thing to marry someone, it's another thing to marry their family.
Yeah.
And although I don't know much about Caucasians or any other lots of races, I know that no matter who you marry, there is no way you wouldn't have some interaction with their family. The guy I said I dated in high school for 3 years, though I loved him more than life itself at that point, his family was very cold towards me. Not that I couldn't stand them, but because they were cold towards me, I really hated being around them. And the first time he asked me that, he told me that he wanted to marry me, I felt scared. To be honest, I felt scared. That's just before he went to uni. I thought to myself, if I'm married to this family, and he was also Yoruba, like myself, if I'm married to this family, I would have a hard time.
Wow.
Although, I mean, wealth-wise, we matched each other. It was like the wealthier that we were. And my dad was a doctor, and his mom was a trader. But I just thought, there's no way we would have a harmonious relationship if I'm married to his family. So although I loved him, it was one thing that I wasn't prepared to go into. I didn't tell him at the time, but thank God that, the relationship dissolved. So I didn't have to have that problem. And even my husband, whom I married, although growing up, I knew his mom. When his mom comes over, she always brings a snack all the time. I loved when each time she came around, she always had something that, you could eat. Those kids, we love that. And I didn't know his other siblings. I know his older brother, who was a brilliant artist. And I've met him before. Very amicable guy. I got along with him. But I didn't get to know the rest of his family until I came to England, and then I met, because his family, they all grew up in England, I met the rest of his family here. And although I got along with them, there were some things that happened that I just thought, before I married him, my dad said to me, don't marry them because you'll have problems. You're not matched socially. As a result, they will try to suppress you because you're the wife. And I remember telling my dad, oh, no, Dad, he loves me. He smiled and said, you don't know what love is. And each time we have an argument or things happen between me and his family, I always remember what my dad said. And it's true. I got a lot of oppression from his family in the early part of our relationship. Before, obviously, I grew skills. I grew stronger, and I was able to withstand those criticisms or everything. I hate cooking. I love cooking initially, but now I don't like cooking. And people tell me, oh, you do cook for your husband. So what? He's not hungry. As long as he's not hungry, who cares if I cook or not? That's now become my attitude towards that. But can you imagine if I married someone from a different culture altogether? We are both Yoruba people. We understand the kind of foods that we like. I didn't grow up eating traditional Nigerian food when I was growing up. So I didn't learn how to cook those things. So in my own marriage, I use YouTube to cook those things nowadays. Yes, I do. I will admit to it. I didn't grow up eating traditional Nigerian food in my house. So how can I make it for a husband? If he likes it, there are Nigerian shops that I go to. During COVID, I order all my Nigerian food. Everybody's happy. But as far as, and that's just us that are the same culture, and we actually grew up together. So it's not just the family, it's also the food. I mean, we had those conflicts already, and we're from the same culture. So I can't imagine now marrying a different culture altogether. You don't even understand your language. People marry people like South Korean or Chinese. I have an uncle who married an Indian woman. They've married now for nearly 50 years, about 42 years, I think. And they're still together. They're still together. I remember her wearing a sari. The town had a meeting, the town's meeting in their house. She came out wearing a sari. She's an old woman, but she came out wearing her sari and everything. She was greeting everyone. She was greeting us in Yoruba. Yoruba, my mom's traditional home language. She greeted them in that language, and she prepared their food for them and brought some Indian bhajis out as well. And everybody shared. Everyone's fine.
Yeah.
But I can see where there'll be issues. And like I said, it's always an opportunity. If you don't treat issues as opportunities, we'll have more conflicts.
That's right.
Than building bridges. And that's what I believe that people who go into multicultural relationships ought to put in the forefront. Apart from the attraction, look at the things that can become an issue down the line, and what are you willing to overcome? Is it the food issue? If it's a food issue, she can't cook the kind of food that I like. Is she prepared for you to go and get it somewhere else? So order your food in. Thank God we now live in a multicultural environment where we can order virtually any kind of food from anywhere in the world. Yeah. So there's virtually no continent that you look for the food I can't find here in England.
Yep.
Or is it about the family thing? You just have to find your way around those things. Yes, initially I'll be bitter and sulk for days and everything. But after a while, if they say you can't do this, I say, well, there are people who can't do it now. At least, I just laugh about it, and before you know it, it stopped becoming a talking point. Yeah. It stopped becoming something that can criticize me over.
That's it.
And now, if I want moi, I'll call my mother and I'll say, "Mom, I want moi. She'll make moi for me. I'll go and pick it up." It's as simple as that.
Okay.
But if I didn't grow a tough skin or grow skills and think, I have to find a way around this. Yes, I did go to God in prayer about it after a while, because I used to complain to my sister. She said to me, "Have you prayed about it?" So I started praying about it instead. And it took years to get to where I am right now. But I can honestly say that thank God I did that at that time. 27 years on, I can say where I started from to where I am now, it's been great. So, and it's the same thing with someone marrying from different culture. You have things that hurdles that you have to overcome. Apart from your attraction, there's also the family. There's the way your kids are going to be looked at. Because fine, we live in England, so multicultural kids or mixed race kids, people don't tend to worry so much about them. But go somewhere like South Korea, and you're black, and you're working with your mother who's white, you face certain criticism. Or Japan or China, places that you definitely face criticism. Are you prepared for that? Or are you prepared for your kids to go through something like that? I know some people who actually raise their kids in both places. I think he's Japanese, and he was raised in Ghana, but he goes to Japan for holidays just so that he gets to know both cultures. But it worked for them. Although he did say that, he preferred living in Africa because they accepted him. Yeah. But living in Japan, it was harder. So those are the kind of things that not just the parents have to think about that. When we're going to get married, what are things that we have to consider or overcome, and not just get too carried away with we're attracted to each other, we want to marry each other, and not think seriously about these things, because there's no way it's going to come up sometime in your relationship. It may not be now, because you probably live in different flats, or right now I can still go to Nando's, eat chicken and be okay with that. But when you have to start live together in your own home and start cooking and stuff like that, you start to see where issues will come up, where differences in how you cook or how you clean or how you keep things will become an issue. And those are kind of things that you have to start talking about or start realizing pretty early on in your relationship in order to make things work.
Well done. Can I just ask you this question? I know, because when we first started, we're talking about when choosing a partner, what should you consider? And I thank God for the way you answer the questions. Because if you don't marry who you marry, and now you said you don't know how to cook moi moi, your mother-in-law has to cook moi moi, and I know some guys are ready to say, you know what, my wife, because you don't know how to cook it, don't worry, I'm ready to help you. And let's say your husband is not that, can say, you know what, I marry you for you to cook for me. You understand? Because there are some, even though you're coming from the same culture, you understand, some men will stand their ground and say, you know what, I marry you as a wife, you must know how to cook. But for example, I remember, because my relationship is a distance, my husband was Nigeria, was here. So the first thing I think he asked my sister, he said, does she know how to cook? You understand? My sister was like, oh, don't try. So that means there are some men like that, if they don't know how to cook, it's going to be an issue. Even though they said, okay, at the first stage, you can just love her, or let's marry. You understand? So anyway, with this one, I'm saying is that for somebody out there that will be listening to this, is that with what Debo said, because your mother-in-law is happy, because some mother-in-law are not like that. You understand? No, you say you've been through some stuff, you have to pray about things, and yes, now you grown tough skin, and even your husband doesn't even bother if you really cook or you don't cook. In as much you put oven food, isn't it? But not all African man like oven food, though.
No, he doesn't eat it.
Even fortunate as well, will not like oven food all the time. So what I'm trying to say is that, so I think you mention it, because it's not, marriage is not about love. It's about, you know what, this person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. If something comes up in future and I said, okay, you know what, this is me, you marry me, and I'm not ready to let, are they really to cope? Because marriage is a broad thing, you understand? So with the multiculturalism one, is that, yes, it's good. I like the way Fortunate answered it, because is that you're marrying the person anyway. The same blood flow through us. We have the same blood. If you're going for blood transfusion, for example, people that go for blood transfusion, they're not going to say this is the blood of a white man, this is the blood of a black man. They only say this is all negative blood or all positive blood, and they give it to you. You don't even know the kind of blood is going into your body. You understand? So I think people should just leave the culture and say, this is me, this is her, this is him. And yes, we can work things together. So anyway, thank you for that input, and thank you for being vulnerable, because it's not everybody that will say this out there, you understand? So the other question is disagreements about food. We know we mentioned food a little bit in this topic. Disagreements about food preferences, surprisingly, can sometimes lead to conflict and tension. I know you did mention that, because I mean, based on what you said, it's not something that is an issue in your marriage, isn't it? Deborah, yeah, cool.
No.
So disagreements about food preferences surprisingly can sometimes lead to conflict and tension within a marriage, impacting the overall harmony of the relationship. So should this issue be something that can impact our joy, you understand, our happiness in marriage? Because, oh, I love to eat seafood, you don't like to eat seafood, and the husband said, no, I'm the husband of this house, I don't like seafood, so you dare not cook seafood. You understand? For example, like my parents, when we were young, my daddy doesn't eat, at some point, my daddy doesn't eat okra. But because he doesn't eat okra, doesn't stop we, the children, eating okra, because we like okra. You understand? So is that you can't use what the pot you use to cook that, I mean, your okra, and use it to cook that. Daddy will not say don't eat it. That is the understanding. And it's not that my mommy cannot eat it, but because my mommy have to respect my daddy, because my daddy doesn't eat that particular food anymore. Even my mommy said when she was growing up, she loved to eat okra. But because it's not that daddy said you must not eat it, but she decided that, you know what, I need to respect him because he doesn't eat it, so we don't. But we, the children, we love it, so we eat it. That's their own marriage, you know. This is we. So, but in some family, it could be an issue. So what do you see to that?
To be honest, when you're dating someone, you may not learn all these things. You will not pick up on all these things initially. You may have a conversation about something, or go to a restaurant somewhere where they sell, I mean, they offer you something, oh, I don't eat mushrooms. And you find out that person doesn't eat mushrooms or doesn't like mushrooms, or I'm allergic to shellfish or something. You can find out some of these things, but not all of it until you start living together. And it depends on how much you respect one another and how much you want that thing to become an issue. Because after a while, you start telling yourself that, you should choose your battles in your relationship. Choose your battles. You can't always, making food an issue that becomes a big thing in your relationship. Honestly, it's not worth it. Because what is it that this person is really after? People, I'm sorry to say, but men who insist on, oh, I'm the man in the house, and if I don't eat this, the house can't eat this, they have problems with their ego. It's just an ego thing, it's a pride thing, and God hates pride. They need to check their pride. And I personally would not allow my husband to let his pride dictate in my relationship, and let that happen initially in my relationship. But after a while, I stood my ground and said, sorry, if you don't like it, it's your problem. It doesn't sound like a me problem, it sounds like a you problem. So you solve your problem, I'll solve mine. And we have to work through it that way. Yes, we will stop talking to each other for a few days or a few weeks sometimes, but eventually we'll start talking again and everything's resolved. I told you.
In marriage.
I had to grow a thick skin to such things, because I was a kid who was bullied a lot growing up. And later I realized that I was being bullied not because I was a bad person. I was being bullied because people envied me. That was why. And once I started to understand the power that I willed in my own person, what I had in who I was as a woman of God, as a child of God, I started to understand that, you know what, I cannot let somebody cheat me, no matter who you are. And I started to voice my own concerns instead of letting somebody else. Yes, if you don't like it, I have things I don't like as well. Does that mean that you stop eating it? You know, we have to start. It's a give and take. You have to make compromises in relationship. And if you get to a point where you cannot, it's good to submit to a man. What the Bible says, we should submit to our husbands.
Sure.
But also tells the husband to love the wife like Christ loved the church and gave his life for it. Can my husband give his life for me?
Okay.
That is the kind of love that God expects from a husband to a wife. So if you really truly love your wife to that extent, would you fight over eating rice or how it's cooked? Or food does not become an issue anymore. If you truly love your wife the way God loved us so much, he gave his own son to die for all of us. He was tortured to death on the cross for our sin. I mean, who can love me that much and give his life for me? That's what God expects from man. But people tend to harp on about, oh, women submitting. I can only submit to you if you love me that much. And that's what I proved in my relationship, that once you start to respect each other's role as Christ has put it in place and as we would prefer it to be in our relationship, I cannot give you that level of submission unless you give me that level of love. And with love comes understanding, comes tolerance, comes compromise, and all of those things. Yes, you chastise me on top of it. I'll take your chastisement. But you have to chastise me in love. You have to understand where I'm coming from. You have to understand why you are doing what you're doing as well. And that way we can start to speak languages that we both understand. I mean, it's not an issue anymore. My husband understands that if I cook, yes, I would cook when I want to cook. But mostly I have steak, rice. I just do different things. I just use vegetables and whatever else. I cook like that. That's how my kids cook as well. But we eat healthily in the house, so it's not a problem. He eats the same thing as well. But sometimes the things that I make that he doesn't want to eat, I don't have any problem with that. So long as it gets eaten, that's the end of it. But yeah, as I was saying, when a man starts to make an issue of that, it's because of his pride, and he needs to check that pride. You may need to pray for him as a wife that God helps him to realize that it's pride that's holding him back from submitting, from having a compromise with you when it comes to issues that of foods that he doesn't like or he has problems with. It's really not because, not unless it's a health issue thing or he's allergic to it and he can actually die or something, then obviously that will never enter my house.
Okay.
There's no compromise at all. That one is a definitely no. Not unless something that it's actually dangerous to his health. There's no way that I'll be bringing that into his house. Or if he has high blood pressure, you reduce the salt and everything. Everybody start eating tasteless food in the house. Yes, I'll make sure that happens. But not unless that's an issue, no. You cannot dictate how the rest of us eat in the house because you don't eat it. That's not love. That's a dictatorship, and has to go.
Okay, what about this proverb that sorry, I'm going to let you talk and then we just round the talk tonight. What about this proverb that the Yoruba normally says, because you're from the Yoruba background, you marry a Yoruba man, no? They say, Obeti, balele konje, iyalele konse. So, what about that what the man doesn't like, the woman should not cook it, isn't it? That's the proverb.
If you go to the history of that proverb, it comes from our culture. Even the Bible, apart from what God says, the actual words of God, a lot of what the olden day Israelites did was based on their culture. Okay. You can't touch a woman who's menstruating. All of that, it's considered unclean and all that. I mean, would you say that today? No. It's a different thing. A lot of those things were woven into God's words, was woven into their culture, and as culture has developed and moved on, we have to move on as people as well.
Okay.
That saying came from our culture as Yoruba people, where they believe that you should submit wholly and completely to your husband. I know a couple. The woman, her husband would tell her that she cannot eat until he's finished eating. So she'll wash her hand and hold her hand up until her husband finishes his food, and then she can't eat because they cannot eat at the same table together. I mean, it is born out of their culture. But that's maybe how the man was raised. But if you look back into this, it's from a place of pride. Men used to take center stage in Yoruba homes. The Balili, like you said, the man of the house was the man of the house, and whatever he says was law. And as such, if he has one wife, 10 wives, 20 wives, everybody has to do whatever he says. But that was just a way of fueling his own ego. I'm sorry to say, it's his ego that's carrying that on. And traditionally, we've let that happen for so long. But until we start confronting these things one by one, we won't be able to find a common ground, and will mislead the generation coming after us. Can you imagine telling your child that is what should happen? Would you allow your girl to marry a man who will tell her, no, you cannot eat something that she's grown up with, or maybe her favorite food, because he doesn't like it? You can't. And that's what it is. We cannot always lean on all those adages, because if you look at the background of those adages, it comes from our culture, which has moved on since then. And we have to move on with the times.
Thank you very much. Okay, Fortunate, what do you have to say as the man?
If we're talking about disagreement about food preferences, I think it sounds childish that in a relationship, such things do take place. It's a shameful thing. Whether you're Christian, whether you're not Christian, doesn't make any sense. You don't need to be religious. You don't need to be black or white. It's just a state of almost like an animalistic kind of thought process to go, oh, we are the fallout because we fought about food. Honestly, it's stupid, but it has happened.
It does happen.
The solution to all of this is love in this case. So why did you marry each other? Why are you together? I love her. What would you do for this person that you say you love? Oh, I'll give my life for her, but yet you're going to beat her up because of food, or you're going to have an argument because of food, or you're going to go into a meltdown because of food. I'll give an example. It's really strange because these things are true.
Yeah.
In our church in London, we had a couple, unfortunately from West of Africa, I won't say where, who got into a fight with each other. and she's gone to the kitchen and beaten him with a frozen fish. I'm like, what?
Yes.
We always sat these people down, we had a conversation. They go, really? What happened? Why? Well, they fought over a piece of meat at dinner time. Really? Surely there's enough money to cook another, make more, but this is this is how things get silly. Over a piece of meat. You could just, you know what, give it to her. Drop your pride and go, you can have it. She can drop my pride, let him have it. Love should be the solution at that point in time.
Yeah.
There's an advert that used to write, you wouldn't probably know this advert, but it goes back in the 1980s. It's a Cadbury's advert. And in this advert, 1985, 86, 1986, there's a gentleman that jumps out of a helicopter, runs over a mountain, jumps out of a helicopter, just to deliver a chocolate box to this lady in the room. And it's Cadbury's chocolate, and he will say something, all because the lady loves. Basically, you go through the mountains, you go through the Himalayas, you jump out the airplane just to deliver this wonderful gift for this person.
I think I remember that advert.
Yeah, me too.
It's like chivalry's out the window these days. Whether you're Christian or not, it's like people they don't remember the reason why they got together.
Exactly.
Wife and I were famously known as the cooking couple when we got together. From university, they would go, "Oh, the cooking couple are here," because she didn't know how to cook. She could just about boil an egg and make toast. That's great. But that didn't put me off. It was a good opportunity to share what I had with her. Wow, she makes jollof rice, she makes stew, she does a lot of Nigerian stuff that makes you go, wow, she is amazing. It took me coming down there to meet her where she's at, so that we can both get back together where we could be. It doesn't mean we don't have our argument, but sister, please don't leave it for a day or 2 days. It's not good. Let's get it over with within the couple of hours. You know, the one thing I learned from my wife, from her nan actually, if they had a falling out between a husband and wife, for whatever the reason is, whether they're talking or not, they'll go make a cup of tea, pour the cup of tea, make 2 cups of tea, quietly come over and give one over to the spouse. And you will sit there quietly and drink the cup of tea. And then the conversation can start again. So there are simple little things, simple little habits to solve problems. Food fights, disagreement. There's an underlying issue if a couple fought over food. It means they are not stable in themselves. That is so trivial that you're going to go before a church minister and say, well, you know, you stole the last meat in the plate. Really? Try the frozen fish? You know, it doesn't make any sense. Wrong. I have been back home from work and I was hoping to eat something. And by the time I open the fridge, the stuff is gone. I'm thinking, oh no, I was looking forward to eating that. But when I found out who's done, I'm like, okay, it is well. Don't worry about it. Move on. You know, we should not be talking or we should not be hearing about things like this. It is taking place. Shameful. But whoever's watching this, you should always remember this. Like we say in our church, the solution is love. If you love somebody enough, I know we said earlier, you need more than love to make a relationship work. But in this case, for the sake of love, the word of God says Christ gave himself for the church. Oh, wow. So a husband, give yourself to the wife. Wife, do the same. So either way, it means for each other, got each other's back. Yeah? When that person says, oh, I haven't had enough, you give over to them. Oh, I haven't had enough, give over to him, give over to her. Give yourself over to somebody else. It's simple as that. Because the food will come, the food will go. But you guys are still going to be there. Yeah, you're more important. The word of God asks us, is life not more important than food and drink? You know, Jesus asking our questions, telling us, why are you concerning yourself and anxious about all these things, which is vanity upon vanity? All it's vanity. Why worry about those things? So to put it into context, whether you're Christian or not, do not fall out over food with your partner. It's just not right. It doesn't make logical sense. You're supposed to give yourself to that person, sacrifice yourself for that person if you love each other. It's in an environment where there is no love, that's when you find a harsh rebuke or perhaps offensive fight over food. That's when that will take place. But where love is, such things will not abide. Such things cannot take place. Harmony will be there, not fight, not fallout. So let's stick to love. Let's stick to loving each other and not create conflict over bread and butter, over meat, over jollof rice or meat pie. We don't mercy in our souls. Nothing to worry about in the world.
Thank you for that. The Bible says, "Food for the belly, belly for the food. Everything will end one day."
Yeah.
So, as a couple or somebody that you're heading into a relationship, I think we need to consider all this stuff. One day I remember my husband said to me, he said, "If you wait for your mommy, you will be hungry." So my husband will just go to the kitchen and make the food. He will tell my things like that. But one day I said, "But honey, I'm still the best cook. You know that." I said, "Yes, I know you are the best cook." Because sometimes you can't wait for me, truly. Because I might come back home and say, "I'm tired, my husband already cooked." So that, you see, is about compromise in relationship and understanding each other. So people going into marriage or remarrying, maybe you're getting married with a woman that doesn't love cooking, but you love to do other stuff. You see, it's love. It's about love. When we love each other, we can teach each other how to do things, to learn things, And thank God for YouTube.
Something really quickly. One thing, I'm just trying to draw on something I've been through myself personally to be where I'm at today.
Okay.
What I'm going to say is, ever since I was either 16, 17, I didn't know who I was going to marry, but I had it in my heart that I will do whatever it takes to make sure they're okay.
Yeah.
So if I have to do the cooking, I was ready for that. If I have to do child rearing, I was ready for that. If I had to go do work and do child rearing, do this and that, I was ready for it. Guess what? Even though I had this mindset at 16, 17, all those things became a reality. To go through those stages. Because I believe if it was well for my wife to achieve what she needs to achieve, it will be well for me. So there are times when you see yourself where you pick up a lot of things you probably don't anticipate. But expect the unexpected, as we say, always be prepared, as they say in the Boy Scouts, to pick somebody else up just in case. That's what relationship is all about. You're in the forefront, you're working together as a couple. If somebody trips, somebody needs to carry the person that's tripped up, carry them until they're healed, and then start walking again. If you trip up, she's going to carry you when you're ill, when you're not feeling so good. And then when you're back on your feet, you can start walking side by side again. That's what it's all about. The journey is much more easier if you look after each other. It's Jerry Springer, quote to quote Jerry Springer. Look after each other. Your success is based on the way you treat each other. The success of a man is based on how the woman is treated, and vice versa. She's asking for an input. You gotta give her the good stuff, because she gives, she multiplies, she gives back, in wonderful ways. If you mouth, she's gonna give you a lot of mouth. Wonderful.
You run the mouth for you like water.
Yes. If you invest in her and you said, right, this, what, don't worry, you've got work tomorrow, I'll do the cooking tonight, you go and get some rest. If you invested in her, she will sort you out later, guaranteed. Be sweet about it. It's compromise, smart and intelligent.
But Fortune, you know what you said now is the actual practicality of the word loving your wife like Christ loved the church. Because when you just say that, when we quote that Bible scripture, men don't tend to see how practical that ought to be in their relationship. And you've mentioned one or two things, and those are the crucial things. You're right. the more you give, the more love you give to your wife, and that's an understanding. That is showing consideration. That's showing care and all that. The more you get out of her, and like I said, it comes back to you in multiple folds. Then that woman will submit to you in ways that you cannot even imagine. She will love you so much, she'll submit to you. She'll be ready to even give her life to you because she knows you love her unconditionally. You want the very best for her. Like God wants the best for us. No matter how many times we go wrong, He's always there, open, and He always forgives us and brings us back in, draws us back in. If a husband does that to a wife, you get the best out of her no matter what. Not unless she's just an evil person. You always get the best out of her. And that's it. Until men get to understand that there's a practical way of loving your wife, submitting, she would never submit to you. You always have complaints.
So thank you for that. And once again, I am grateful to my wife in my life because despite coming from a different background, but wow, I never imagined and I never foresaw what my dad saw, that she'll be right at the center of the family, holding so many things together. Maybe somebody else will have said, complete stranger, not going to work, but they didn't see God's plan. I didn't see it either, to be honest. But one person can underpin so much goodness in the community here and there. And all you can do is just thank God for that person and who they are and what a blessing they become. So let's embrace each other. Let's love everybody around us. Smile even when you don't think you should, because you should. And honestly, I always say my situation sometimes says to me, "Don't smile. You've got nothing to be happy about." No, I will be happy. I will smile because whatever it is you're emanating, that glows out of you. Somebody's saying, "Wow, that's a beautiful gift." They don't know you, but they want to get to know you. If you're still single, smile a lot more, sister. Smile a lot more, brother. Don't go out there with screwed up face. You're gonna chase them all away. Be open. If you're like the way Jesus is, if you can just imagine yourself being Jesus for 5 minutes, what is his daily routine? His routine? How does he carry himself? Even though the word of God says, you won't look at him twice, but when you meet him, he transforms you. It's what he says, who he was, becomes evident when he opens his mouth and begins to smile as he talks and he begins to do good. You want good person to come into your life, you yourself have to be ready to be that good person.
Sure.
You can't give what you don't have.
True.
If you don't collect from God, you can't give it out to somebody else. So for us to make this work, love God. God is love. He is the solution. You need to bring him into yourself and just shine him out also. That's how it's going to work.
Thank you.
I'm still learning, people. I am still learning.
I know you're still learning. Don't worry, you're a superstar, isn't it? Don't worry, one day I'm going to call your wife and say, this is what your husband says. Is it true? I know you're saying the truth, don't worry.
Yeah.
Okay, finally, before we round up tonight, I just want to ask this question. What do you think about joint accounts in a relationship? Is it healthy or should everybody have their own separate account?
It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one.
Okay.
If you truly love, if you trust the person you're with, having a joint account would never be a problem because you understand what your joint account does. You may not have your salary paid into the joint account, maybe paid into your own personal account, but you have a joint account where all the bills in the house come out of, say, for example. So you have a joint account that you put a certain percentage of your salary into, he puts the same into that account, and that's used for the payment of bills and everything else in the house. That we get. Or if you brave enough and you have your salary paid into a joint account, you just got to understand how that money is going to be used, have an understanding about how the money is going to be used. But the truth is that if you don't trust the person you're with, you will not be able to do that. It's not a prerequisite for your love, or neither does it show whether or not you love each other when you have that. It's not a prerequisite. However, if you want to do that, go ahead, but you have to have an understanding of what you want that account to do. Are you opening the account because you want to show that you're Mr. and Mrs.? Do you want the account because you want both your salaries to go in there? and your salary is going there. How do we spend it? You both hold cards with it. They have daily limits. But what do? Do you pay your bills out of it? Do you just go to the shops, spend money? You have to have what you have rules about how you spend it. When we had a joint account in America, my husband and I worked in Silicon Valley for a couple of years, and we had a joint account there because I couldn't open an account, so we had to have it joint, and all his salary went in there. But what we did was that since salary comes in, we had a percentage that went to savings, and the rest was used for the bills in the house. And once that's gone, we both had our own pocket money. So I had $100 a month. He had his own $100 a month that you can spend on whatever you want. After a while, I noticed that when you use the card, you can easily go over your 100%, your £100, $100. So I said, okay, why do we draw it in cash and hold it in our hands so we can spend it in our hands? And we both respected those rules. Nobody went over anything. When I go shopping, we have a list before I go. I did all the shopping in the house, but I knew what the budget for the shopping, house shopping was. And everybody kept within those budgets, and we had no issues whatsoever about our joint account. When we came to England, we couldn't do that.
Wow.
We couldn't even open a joint account together. He would not allow a joint account with me. Or we said, I'll spend all the money. But that's his perception. That was his perception. It wasn't mine. We do still have a joint account, but I'm the only one who uses it. But it just depends on how you do things. We managed to do it perfectly when we were in America. And he was the only one working. I was not even working in America because I couldn't work. He was on the visa, and I wasn't working. I was in uni at the time, and he was working. It was all his salary that went in there. But we both had a joint account, and I could access the money as and when I needed to, and it worked. He didn't have a problem. Don't know what changed, but it did change. And we can't open one in England. But yeah, that is marriage for you. Things do change. Things happen, and yeah, it may cause distrust in our relationship. Actually, I think I know what happened, but it may cause distrust. Yes, we both have an American Express card, and he did something that got me really angry, and I went and spent on the American Express. I spent a huge amount of money on the American Express. I think that's what I did to punish him. And yes, I think that's why we didn't hold a joint account when we came to England. But I think I did that about 2 or 3 times. And yes, that could be the reason. That's one of the things that I can think of happening. But to hold a joint account, it should never be a prerequisite of whether or not someone loves you enough or doesn't love you enough. It's a matter of trust and a matter of understanding. Do we trust each other enough to open ourselves, to be vulnerable with each other where our finances are concerned? And do we trust each other, understand each other enough so that where we do have that vulnerability, we can respect each other's boundaries within that arena?
Thank you for that example. That's wonderful. Fortunately, do you have anything to say about joint accounts or not joint accounts?
Well, it shouldn't really matter a bit too much. Like the food situation, really. You don't need to be a Christian or non-Christian to understand these things are necessity. It's just practical, especially if you do have things such as mortgage, where you've got to pay for the house. So everybody needs to, put their earnings in the pot together to make sure bills can be paid off first thing. Although pay yourself first, whichever arrangement you've got going. These are just basic things, It'll be a discussion really, because if you're going to be paying your bills, whatever they may be, utilities and mortgage and food, you need to bring all the earnings in and then make sure it works accordingly. My wife organizes the funds and finance for somebody such as myself who did trading and stockbroking. I'm a money person, but I actually handed it over to my wife to sort out the arrangement of the joint account and everything else. Just take care of it. Yes, there'll be the odd occasion I get a ping on my phone saying X amount to spend. I'm like, but that's part of the process. It is what it is. I don't think one can talk too much about this sort of thing. Everybody in the world, whether they're cohabiting or married or not married, they have people do have joint accounts,
Mm.
and they have to make it work, especially if got bills to pay.
Yeah.
It's simple. It's not something to argue about. It's just common sense and logical.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say this, but unfortunately, I don't think you're a real person because all the things you're saying here do not sound real. You are perhaps the only human being I have ever met in my entire life who thinks the way you think. Money is the biggest issue that, next to fidelity, that causes issues in relationships, that causes relationship breakdown. It's the second biggest thing that causes relationship breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as easy as food. Food is a very trivial thing. However, money is not, because money issues can actually see you guys on the street, can see you guys in serious debt, can see you guys having your goods carted out of your house. It's a very serious issue, and to be honest, it is something that one has to keep a very close eye on. And that's why I said
I agree with
trust.
you there. Well, one thing we've been quite lucky with. I mean, when I remember when I first met my wife, she wasn't brilliant with money. She wasn't, how should we say, astute with controlling funds and finances. She's got a very blessed family, so just spend as you see fit. Whereas I've come from a wealthy family and I've tasted poverty and extreme wealth all throughout my life. Money doesn't apply to me anymore.
Yeah.
I felt the same way growing up as well. But
Because of that, it's not a god to me. It cannot have any power over me. I'm not trying to brag. I have been destitute here in this country. I have stopped to pick up a 50 pence coin from at whatchamacallit, Warren Street, which I thought was money, but turned out to be pigeon poo. I have looked after my three siblings by myself in this country by myself. I was working, studying. I was 19 years old for 4 years. Money is not important. Your love that you both have is the most important thing. When the two of you agree, unless the word of God says, unless two agree, it cannot work. You have to have an agreement. So the money will come and the money will go.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of money come and go in my life. That's why I'm saying, how much is enough? How much is my wife going to spend? She's going to spend 10,000 a month, whatever it is. Hey, if it needs to be used, use it. I've come to that stage where, with my wife, we've had that understanding where initially when we first started, I had to go. You got to be really diligent about money. You got to learn how to use money. Don't use credit card. Let's not rely on it, because we went through those processes. This is part of knowing ourselves, you know. I was somebody I've never used credit card for a long time until I met my wife, you know, and then she taught me how to use the credit card, which then I'm grateful for, because you have to build credit history. I didn't realize there's all these little details, because I've always had access to things. I've learned to be open-handed and let go so that God can put something else in the hands. If you remain like that against your wife or against the person you love, you will lose everything. And whatever the hands can do together will not function. It will not build. The fingers and the hands will not mold to build together. So you've got to be open. Just as you're open in your relationship, you need to be open with money, for my stocks and shares, for my investment, whatever it is I've done from land acquisition. She knows about it all. And she has direct access to everything. God forbid, if anything happens to me today, she will know what to do, and vice versa. So it's not the money. It's the journey together, what we build together with what we have. You know, we might have so much coming in a month, and then so much goes out in a month, and we're like scratching our heads like, oh my God. Recently, just to let you know, the disclaimer, I've got property in London, in the Docklands, and I've always thought I might hand it over to my boys. But because of the amount of tax I'm getting, it's ridiculous. I'm losing like 2,000 a year, 4,000 a year on the property. I'm thinking I'm not supposed to be losing money. I'm supposed to be making money. I'm in the Docklands, for the love of God, in Canary Wharf. Why am I losing? much. So I'm thinking, oh man, I've got to sell it. I mean, we have to come to that conclusion because it's something we built together. And now we have to let it go. You know, if that season that's taking place, then it's the season. And if I can go before God and say, God, is there a way to save these? Do you have another plan for me? Can you teach me? Do I need to go to an accountant? Do I need to state my case in this way, that way? You know, it's not so much that we should get on each other's throats and upset because we're spending more money than we would like to. No, it's about coming together, sit and go, what is the best way forward? So nothing is to be held back. It all needs to be in the open. By so doing, you will get the help and the reasonable, logical conclusion to get the whole thing resolved rather than fighting each other. I know in the past for us, I understand it's played a path where we were in debt. We're like, God, we don't want to lose our house because we're in debt and it's been troubling, but God came through. We didn't point fingers at each other. We just looked to God over the situation. I said, God, I look to you with regards to the circumstances and the situation, and I know you'll make a way for us. And that's how it was. Trust me, my wife was one of the first people to teach me about investing into God's house. She became a Christian. Bishop, as you know, came 2007 or 2008. 2007. And he says, oh, we need to buy a building. I need you guys to raise some money, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, here we go. And my wife was writing a check for £2,000. And there's me thinking, oh, £500 is a lot of money. I'm going to give 500. And when she turned around to me and she goes, this is how much we need to give. I nearly fell from a chair. Not £2,000. The crash has just happened. Have you not heard? You know, people are losing jobs. And she just turned around to me and goes, if you build God's house, God will build your house.
Wow.
And at that point in time, I just shut my mouth. I kept my tails between my leg and humbled myself. Said, yes, ma'am, let's go with your plan. And that's it. A year later, we were buying our first place in the Docklands, that property that we thought if we were to get involved to try and earn money, to take us 10 to 12 years to actually get one. But it happened within a year. God makes a way if you honor him and honor yourselves, both yourselves, in what you do. I don't want to brag or anything, but, you know, by giving what I thought I was capable of doing to my wife, by trusting her with it, it was me just saying, I know I'm really good with money, but I'm going to let you have control of this now. It made her super responsible. She's so meticulous. She's so, you know, Excel. Laura is an amazing creature. She could give you an Excel spreadsheet of every 10 cents she spent for the last 15 years. She has it on a computer. That's how diligent she is. So you've got to just let go of it. It's a tool. Money is a tool. It's not important. Your breath, your breathing, his breathing, your life, your health, those things are important. Because God forbid today, if she goes, I'm not feeling well, it's serious. You spend any money to make sure he was 100%. So therefore, money to be shared together, to build together, to go off on a trip together, to make sure you're happy, to do your hair, get your hair done. Great. Go for it. Because this is the moment, this is the time we have now. Okay? Savings, pray to God that God allows us to see tomorrow. That's great. You don't know what's going to happen in 10 years' time. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Give glory to God for now, for this moment. Our daily bread. That's the prayer Jesus gave to us. Yeah? It says, our daily bread, not tomorrow's bread, not the next day's bread, not a year's bread. Today's daily bread. That's what should be focused on. So the money thing shouldn't be a big deal. Share the bank account. Trust each other. Build trust over the years that I can do this with this person. That's why I got married in the first place. This is not a dating relationship. This is a marriage. We build together. We build this house. We build this relationship. We build this future together. That's how you build. You have to trust the person you're working with. Your running mate is your best mate. You've got to trust them. You have to. In everything. You have to trust them.
Thank you so much. I'm really, really grateful for that input. That's really good. At least from the point from the man or men point of view as a man. I mean, giving your own experience. And I believe men sitting down there listening to this are gonna say, okay, if this young pastor can do this, even let's even forget about being a pastor. It's about your policy. This is what you say you've been telling yourself since the age of 16, 17, 19, before you enter into marriage. Because some men, they don't believe in you see, maybe joint account, they say, oh, you spend the law, you spend the law. But as you said, you know what? Just give everything because you never even know what tomorrow is. And Deborah, thank you so much for being vulnerable, because I know you share some things as well that, I mean, your personal stuff as well. But thank you so much, and I believe it's going to help one or two people out there. And guys, thank you so much for your time. I'm so grateful for having you this evening.
Thank you.
So that's that for now, and I see you some other time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Yeah.